we get deeper and deeper into design, there's a lot of concepts that I want to touch rather than to focus more on the design, because once you have the concepts in, then AI has made a lot of things very simple and made it very affordable. So today, we are going to build up from the rich picture to what we call a brand identity, because you might think the principles that I'm going to cover today are like, I'm not a marketer, I'm not a communication specialist or a PR, I'm not an agency, why do I need to do it? But I just want you to think, if you approach your proposal as a brand, what does it want you to represent? Because I just want you to start to think, every single thing that I'm trying to cover, you can make it, because it could be a complex proposal that you're working that might be relating to, it's a joint venture, you need to set up a new legal entity, or it could be straightforward, straight outsourcing deal with the government or the commercial entity that you're doing. But still, it's still a brand that you have, and your company plus that company forms this operational unit. So that's still a brand. And what do you want that brand to represent? I just want you to start to think in that way rather than to get into the principle. So I'm still leaving all these exercises because these will be a good memory or a good reminder of what you're learning, how you're going to apply. So we looked at rich picture. We looked at rich picture early this week, and where we looked into the 6 principles of how, yes, when you put a pencil in, when you start to draw something, you're straight away moving away from what you're doing. And that meant if you don't have the clarity, you cannot do anything. But normally in the world that we live in, you could just copy, shred a document, summarize the document, put it in a slide, talk it through and move on. That sort of skim level is more than enough. But when you put it on a piece of paper, that's what makes it much more strong. And this exercise is enabling you to do that. So rich picture, it's not about the picture. So don't worry, you don't need to be a big artist. Just put your thought process in. And we took a foundational framework, a very simple one, how you can have your company, your industry, or competitor, and then the rest of it below, carve that into 3 and issues on the side, 12 to 15 issues. Then talk about, okay, now I put everything in it. Now, what is it am I talking about here? What's the main thing I want to cover here? And then you just bring in relationships, like, okay, who are the characters who are involved in this, and who is related to what, etc. Now that becomes very complex, not very complex, it's very dense, but at least the story is connecting. That's the main thing. Once you connect the story, then obviously you could create icons and you could play with it. And now when you go and talk to the people, you're much more in a solid position to talk to. That's rich picturing. And I request you to go and do rich picture. And I know it's not a straightforward thing, and because this workshop is kind of slightly tight in the time zone, you might not have it, but have it part of it to exercise this weekend or early next week, and it's very, very good. Just spend 30 minutes. But the most important thing is, if you are going to use this beyond your individual thing to have it in a workshop, that's where it makes it even more interesting, which is like make everybody do the same thing and make everybody talk it through and then say, okay, this is what it talks. Because you're removing them when you're talking about kickoff and other stuff. You talk something, people will be on their emails. You talk something, people will be on the phone. Make them do this for 30 minutes. And now collectively, what is it? We are solving it. Now you ping all this picture together and do it. You might discard the picture completely, but it enables them to bring their thought process together. Or then you could pass on to a designer or anybody, and you can do it. Again, Creately is a very simple tool that you can use it, but there are many, many other tools, because these rich picture visual explainers are much more of a video story thing, which we'll come back to it later. But for now, that's where we start. Today, what I want to touch is about brand identity. Brand identity kind of fits in. You can talk about, hey, this is logo designing. I just want you to think slightly above and make it relevant to who you are. Who are you marketing to? Which means, who are you writing this proposal to? Yes, this is a client. Yes, it's a government client. Yes, it's a commercial client. Yes, it's a real estate. Yes, it's a local. Yes, it's a school. And within that school, who's the end user who is going to get benefit out of it? Or at the very end, you might also, talk about your investors. Maybe this is like investor relations. But by the way, who are you writing? Your bio persona makes it big. That's the first question that you might need to ask yourself. Because again, this is not a customer avatar workshop, which is where you could sit and do, okay, now what are the attributes of your end user? Or what are the characteristics? What's his age? Where does he live? And is he married, not married? And so we are not going to get into that sort of details. But this is like in general, ballpark, who are you selling to? Then if you put it into picture, this is your bidding scenario that you're facing as we speak, right? Sales, even though you could forecast it, you could budget it, it's still unpredictable to a certain extent. This is an exact situation that we are facing at the moment with Scribble. Now, sales is unpredictable, totally unpredictable, because of we go and get excited, create new and more courses where we never allow one or two of our courses to become evergreen, where we click a button, put a campaign in, you always get people. No. What that meant is, you end up having low or no margins in anything that you do, and you create a lot of content with it. And what that meant is, if you don't standardize it, do it, then it becomes a non-transferable value, which is still there. So I just want you to understand, elevate yourself, because again, this material or this content that I produce is not for people who are very comfortable churning proposals, and then very happy that I churn 30 proposals this month or 30 a year. You're always going to be rotten. I'm sorry, but it's tough. And there are different communities for you. You can go and do that. But this is about elevating you. That's why the conversation that I'm talking to you is like, your proposal is, where are you? Where are you sitting in this? Understanding that, who am I selling to? And what's the current landscape that I'm bidding for is going to take you to a different level. And this is a tagline for Baachu. Because we don't define our business by the people we serve, we define by the product or service, because within Baachu, we have 30 plus product and services. And that's the plus and minus for us, which meant we, within the product arm, we don't focus much, because we kind of mess up both product and service. We kind of muddle it together. But either way, that's why we don't share anything about what we do. Some people see us as a research company. Some people say this as a sales marketing company. Some people see that as a bidding company. We support bidding. Some people see that as a pricing and benchmarking company, and some see us as a hardcore training company. And out of all these things, some people see that as AI company. So within this, we do voice of the customer interviews, all the way into doing market engagement with the buyers. So many buyers see that as a vehicle to reach suppliers. So that's why we hardly define our business by this is us. But what that meant is, it helps us to create an ecosystem, a massive ecosystem. But what might be beneficial is, to avoid that cycle that I just talked about, which is like, it's not standardized, there is no around it. It's important for you to understand this. You need to start to define your business by the people whom you serve, not by the product or service you sell. Because time and time again, I just want you to go and read the mission statement or anything, that mission, vision, values that your company has. Who is it for? It might be all about your company, about you, what you do. So, and this is where I just want to get into, which is like, do you actually know how customers happen? I'm using it could be grammatically wrong, you might think, but I just wanted to see, suddenly people land and want to work with you. Do you actually know why? It's only when I talk to people, who just downloaded a report yesterday, Deloitte, real estate partner downloaded our market report and was raving about it. And was like, Deloitte? And I'm sure they have downloaded it for £795, which is like maybe $1,000. But I'm sure they want to make $50,000 out of it. Right. But I was so curious how these, because I was following up you on, webinars, and so, because we hardly post about facilities research within the LinkedIn posts. It's all about what we currently do, which is AI and other things. So anything that generates revenue, we hardly talk about it in social media. We just keep it because that's it. So many people see us very, very different. And this person, this is that. So you need to understand how customers come to you, especially this is important, because if you understand this, then that's their perception. So when you write about it, rather than to talk about who you are, it's important for you to actually confirm or negate the perception that they might have. So how you're going to do it is, you just want to document what it is and what not should be. This is theory, but let's get into it, because again, this one I do it every year myself, which is understanding like, okay, how the customer starts to the end. Here we go. A customer starts somewhere, we don't know. They might go to website, they might read our newsletter, they might join a webinar, they might be following us on LinkedIn, or they might have met me on a networking event. I don't know. That's a start. Something happened, but the end is they're working with us. So what are the touch points? What's actually happening here? I mentioned some of the tools here, Draw.io, Glyphy, Lucidchart, etc. These are not AI-based tools, but these are very simple. As you can see here, you can simply use a Post-it note to do it. I do that every Christmas, sitting and say all these stuff that I've created. Christmas is the time, or I ask people where I do the state of the market analysis. I ask them, okay, how was this year? How did you find it? Where did it happen, etc.? And this is where I note it down. So again, if you have a team, I think when you submit a bid, it's important for you to sit down with the sales team, understand, hey, how does customer reach us? And note down these touch points for you, because it's important for you. Because why? Because when you sit and write a proposal, you just need to understand there is a reason why you're involved on this tender. But if you, some way or the other, without knowing, you might either affirm what they already know, or you might totally contradict what their thought process is and tell them, this is who we are, this is our great solution, etc. So having this kind of understanding of how the customer happens might be beneficial for you, because it then enables you to go and write a much more brilliant solution than what it takes. This is a very different take of looking what you already know. I note it down, different steps, connect the dots, and then see what I'm currently doing, and most of the time you'll realize, because I do that with the team and then tell them, this is how you do podcast. This is how you do webinar. This is how you do to email. This is how you do to run a webinar. But it's there right on the face, but they go and do it something else. So this is the important. It could be as simple as that, or it could be as simple as this. You could have a BD life cycle, etc. But just get to it. As I mentioned, document what it is, not what it should be. Just to understand, so you can find the leakages, because leakages are important. Because when you talk about leakages, we know we leak big time. We leak big time. When somebody comes to a website, register for a newsletter, nobody follows them up. When somebody comes and downloads a sample report, nobody follows them up. When somebody joins a webinar, we never follow them up and say, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help? Nothing. We just leave it like, when you are ready, we are there for you. Like, it's all great, but you need to be predictable. You need to be profitable. And that's how you can't just keep sharing value. That's the thing. So again, it's important for you to see, where do you leak? You, in your terms, you might call it lessons learned review or something. Those are, outdated, totally dead. And I just think, where is it leaking? After all, you're putting all the effort. And sometimes, something else get excited and we just move on with the exciting thing, and we miss out on something. So again, think where are the leakages are. Because when I am trying to start to it now, I've got some understanding about what's happening. Where do my customer comes in? Or what's currently happening within my customer? It could be like, okay, sales is asking me to write a proposal. I'm just writing a proposal, and I'll just keep writing a proposal. Good for you. But I just want to see, okay, let's be curious to see, how did it happen? Because that's going to enable me to write better. Because yes, we have been invited for this tender for X and Y. Who knows this person who's a sales director? So the perception of this customer is not your company, it's the salesperson, because him or her liked this person, and then because of him or her, you're writing this tender. So you might be sitting and writing company great, but end of the day, they just want to work with this person and they like this person. And that's the reason. So you might be missing it totally, and you might be writing all the great stuff. And that's the whole principle behind it here. So understand that, and then look into that. So now we are coming into what we call the brand identity design. So I'm going to keep it simple. So many framework. We are not a brand agency, and there are companies who charge from all the way from $10,000 to nearly $1 million for brand designing, brand change, rebranding, and all these things. But I'm going to keep it how we created our brand, an identity of our brand, and you can go back and compare your competition and your company, and then say, is it relevant? Because recently, what's more common is something called reputational analysis. Reputational analysis is like your brand's position. Before, it's like it used to be subjective, but today it's very, very objective. how many bad press, how many good press, how many people talking, like, we talked just before this Glassdoor in bits and pieces, which is like, those are reputational damages, which is like, you can sit and create an amazing brand, but there are companies now, who manage a company's brand positioning, not just because how your turnover and other things, but reputation. The quote that comes in, but I'm just not going to repeat it. So this is what we wrote in 2014, which is like, okay, we want to create something very simple, something sustainable, something data-driven. And we moved a long way from there, which means we are not, we still make it simple, but we never made it sustainable. That's what I talked about. We are still data-driven. For deserving business, initially we pick and choose, we still pick and choose, which means we only do 3 projects a month or 3 projects a quarter, depending on complex, and that's it. And we just work with these people, who address most important challenges, which means if you're a B Corp organization, you get the first priority because we are becoming B Corp this year, which means, there comes a point in life where you run a company and you understand what have I done. It's not about profit. It's not about revenue. It's not about what you do. It's about what's the impact you created. We were always impact driven. So those are the things. So it's here, but I want you to understand, humans love a good story. It's the characters that we crave. Is a brand is not a logo. A brand is a fictional character, right? And I just want you to create why what we have created, right? It's called Character Diamond. Character Diamond is actually came from David Freeman. It's actually from screenwriting, because we want to create a character like a brand. Like every company has a logo, but not, and only very few companies have a brand, have a character. We thought from the very beginning, I wanted to create a character that people can design into. So Character Diamond is a framework used in screenwriting and character design, right? I just want you to keep this in thought when you look into, you can talk boring logo design and others, which you are going to come back. But now I just want you to start to do this, right? A character diamond is how we created our stuff. And this is what I'm going to talk about. And I'll give you a few more frameworks to look into. It's fascinating when you look into, so people look into profitability analysis to decide who you want to work with. But there are other companies like us, we use B Corp and reputation analysis before we work with, because we had a very bad experience of working with an entity which wasn't fit into our ethos, because we were introduced by some of the people whom we respect, and we went on blindly, we gave everything, and we got hurt. And now we are going through, like, what we are doing. So again, in your case, this is it. North Star is a dominant characteristics. So you have 2 things, which is like, this is absolutely important. This is one thing. North Star. That's it. Primary character of my company. This is how it's impact driven. That's what we are, impact driven totally. For an individual to a company, it's impact driven. That's it. The second one is below it. It could be slightly opposite, or it could be something. Secondary trait it's related to the first, right? But it's not as strong as the first one. That's your secondary one. Whereas the other 2, opposite, right? Other 2 could very well be, in this case, as I mentioned, while you are impact driven, the secondary character trait, which is counter driven, is you are not revenue driven, which means you cannot be impact and revenue at the same time. You cannot be a $100 million company at the same time create $100 million impact, because it's not. While you can focus on 3 or 4 and you could create much larger impacts, right? Is there. So again, this could be counter or it could be the same. Again, as a company, this is where you just need to come in, because the choice that you make has an impact on the other one. So what's the opposing trait? The next one is trait 3 and 4 are just in this case, which means, we have flaws, which means, yes, we are curious. Our mascot is curious, which means we run behind the next next innovative new thing. I mean, like, but this has been creating revenue for 3 years and it's sustainable. But why did you leave it and run behind? Because we are curious. That's the flaw. That's a flaw within us. It's just like, that's a sin. And non-negotiable, as I mentioned, this is what we're prepared to die for. So again, when you create a brand, when you create a bid, what is your absolute North Star, your primary character? What's a secondary character? Forget about your value propositions. Forget about this. If your proposal is human, what does it want to say to the customer? Right? What is an absolute yes? Yes, customer will benefit from X, Y, Z by working this over 3 years, over 5 years. Customer will get this amazing innovative. Yeah, everybody. It's all great. But if you put all these things into you, and if you talk in a human language, now with AI writes much more human than human writing human, which is funny. But that's it. I just want you to start to think. If your proposal, use it. If you use the character diamond as a framework, you create your proposal as a character. What do you want it to represent? And sometimes your character is always the same because you are the same. But then you might need to change something a little bit for this particular client. And this particular client might also have their own pain points and stuff. But rather than to talk about B2B, look about person to person. If there is C to C, how does it work for you? So this is a test for you. See whether you could find it. It's a character. Obviously, it's a character, which is like I've taken the primary trait. If I say that, you will know that. Secondary trait, this person was orphaned and bullied, non-negotiable. He always stands up for his friend and other innocents. But on the other side, he's overconfident and is impulsive. Who's this person? I'll leave it to you to find this person. If we look inside Baachu, we do all these things, right? We spend time on, we are a very small company, but we take time to just share our messages in the nice possible time. But again, it's not about service and products. It's about the stories our end customers share about themselves, and sometimes they share about us as well. So again, this is it, but it's okay, but we can shut all these things down and then focus on 10 customers, make it as a recurring revenue, make a profitable company and do it. That's all fine. People forget you, but we might be nobody, but people will remind us, that's it. So again, think about this. So I just want you to go and see, to build the character diamond for your brand. What's the primary character trait? And what's the secondary character trait? What's non-negotiable? And what's a quick quirk or weakness or a flaw for your company? Just thinking about it. Sit down with your marketing person or sit down with anybody who have a good idea about branding, understand and say, hey, I just want to do this exercise. Because once you know that, then you can see how you can do your proposal quickly. Because if you know this is it, hey, this is our company, we are like this. We are local, we do the right thing for the people. But sometimes we over-engineer. We are innovative, but we are expensive. But that's fine. What is it? Just try to come out with this. This is one thing. So where I'm also going to suggest, this is not immediate quick reading, but you can go back and even ask ChatGPT, Bard. Bard has gone down badly. I don't know whether you realized it. Bard has gone down. Use Claude. Claude is great. I mean, like, when I say great, better than Bard. But not as much as ChatGPT is becoming very, very logical, very, very reasoning now. But check out these tools. Again, for brand definition and core identity, I just want you to start to understand some of the framework, because once you get to it, these are the things nobody in the proposal industry teaches you, because they don't want you to learn these things, because these are strategic. These are leader thing, So when you think about it, it's big. So I've listed some of the framework, which are very interesting, and I've highlighted the really important ones which you have to do. Simon Sinek just came into the picture a few years ago, but now he's the golden child because of his why, how, why, what, how. Just like, why do you do this? How do you do this? That's, it's many, the new age branding agencies use it. I'm sure many people follow Simon Sinek. That's one. Whereas, the traditional people or the academics' golden child is actually brand identity prism. That's by Jean-Noel Cafrier. I don't know whether I got his name correct. Just go and check what that's mean. Brand key is another tool. It also asks about your thing. Again, what it meant is when you are talking about your bid now, when you're doing solution development, use these tools. I know we are talking about this. I've shared character diamond, but that's it. But you might also find one or two of the tools that we already covered in the storyboard development. But this storyboard is also your brand development, right? The other one, which is very, very popular in the academic cycle, is the CBB model by Kevin Keller, which is evaluating a brand equity, which is like, if it's how much would you score? How much will your customer score on this? Very, very similar to your proposal. Just go and have a look what it is. Jobs to be done is like a to-do list. It's very, very tactical. You can have a look. The brand asset evaluator is more or less like a valuation tool, but again, just have a look. If a proposal is evaluated, how is how to go? I've highlighted these things just to go and have a look. VCP is another popular one. Vision, culture, positioning. It's about brands, vision, culture, competitive positioning. Very, very common. Most people do it, but that's there. Just have a look at these things and then see what it is. Story brand. Remember story brand? We did that in solution development. Simplifies the brand messages with storytelling. So now you can write up your proposal and you can now start to use these framework. You could see what connects with you. Now you can use these frameworks and then write, hey, executive summary, hey, a cover letter, hey, the key messages that you want to cover, use it in these things and put your brand forward in the most human level. Nobody else will do it, right? All these things, customer journey mapping is another thing. It's just that design thinking is also a common one, but again, that's much more tech. Try it. Design thinking. Maybe I forgot to. When I release the slides, I'll add it to it. So it's very important. So have a look. I've categorized it as well by how the branding is done. Might be helpful. So now you have learned it, right? Now character diamond. Just go and see what it is, and also be curious and to learn. What are the other frameworks? Just go and read about these frameworks, which is like ask more and more questions, because I'll cover more on this an AI tool where prompt engineering is dead, totally dead. So I'll cover that more. But what you're going to, you just be, okay, what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my company? How can I relate to it? How can I use this framework and talk about this in proposal? Those are the things. Engage, get it. But now, let's go back and see, okay, you are now going to imagine you're going to create a brand for your proposal. You're going to look at it that way. I'm going to create a brand for my proposal. Yes, you might be thinking, I only have 10 days to do it. I have 120 questions to write. I'm going to do this. It's already too much for me. There's nobody to support. How am I going to do it? It's fine. But when you have a downtime, not every bit is like that. Just think it very, very strategically. Right? The simplest tool, which is free, is this. It's called Theme Isle. Theme Isle, it doesn't charge any images for anything that you create. I just want you to go and do it. It's very, very simple. At the same time, it's very basic, right? This is not AI. This is very, very simple, which means you could create your brand. You could say, oh, my company is already having a logo and the customer already have a logo. What am I trying to do here? You are visually creating something and telling the customer, you know what, you are not like anybody else. This is who you are. This is our joint. Rather than to create something, make it sticky. This is our joint company. This is how it's going to look. This is the tagline for us. This is how it's going to look. You can see how it's going. Oh, if you take this much effort, you can't do it for every bit, but if strategic bits, you can do it. Canva is the next one. PNG format is very important. Again, when you do anything, use the PNG format, because it's a mistake we used to do in the past. When we had somebody who's a web designer who also creating logos, but then you can go and see some old images where it wasn't PNG. Canva is always golden. It's a very, very good. You can find a lot of free logo maker and logo templates there. Again, don't just underestimate, I just logo, I'm a proposal person. I'm like, understand the story. Take some time, understand the story, and see why PNG. But what I want to cover today is AI. So brand identity, that's what I'm more interested in now than logo design. But unfortunately, there are a lot of logo design thing, which is low level, and I don't want you to think it that way. But brand identity, which is like your proposal identity, right? Similar. Luca, I just want you to, if there is one thing I want you to do, is just to experiment Luca. Luca is amazing. You just go there and put your name. For example, you create a name. So example, Baachu. Put a name in. It just asks you, okay, fine. I've already created all these things. What is it? Oh, I suddenly found an hexagon, which is what our brand logo is. Let's go and click that. It asks you, okay, then remember, this is, what does it say? To design a logo and build a name brand you love. Okay, let's go. So I've just clicked this one, and what happened? It asked blue, and remember we talked about colors. Yes, we can go in length on colors. We already talked about in accessibility, and previously, every color they already talk about what the color stands for, which means you don't need to sit and spend a color ideology about typography, typography, like what different color stands for. If you go and scroll different colors, it automatically tells you what color relates to you. Grayscale is power, elegance, reliability, intelligence, modesty, maturity. And every color, it already tells you. And you just pick up what color you do. And then I just picked up blue, and I just added get on with AI, just for fun, get on with AI. It immediately came out with 30 logos. Then I could sit and customize it. I remember, yes, the current logo is very unique, I understand, but you can't go and spend the same amount of money that for every single thing. But imagine if you want to create a very simple thing, in 3 clicks, I got a logo, right? Just in 3 clicks. And look how nice it is. Again, it gave me 30, but I just screenshot the very first 6 and I've added it. So I just want you to try Luca and see what it is. This is so good. Name links, and if you don't know what should be the name of your company, this shocked me actually. If you don't know what name of the company, see, I just, Baachu Works is the very first company I created, which is like anything I create, whatever Baachu creates is this company, which means we don't know what you're going to do. It's Baachu Works, like DreamWorks, right? Baachu Works, that's what we created. So you go and give a name, which is like, okay, Hazel, I just got to give a name. It goes, and in the next button, it tells you in design, it creates a brand identity with a name. So it was amazing. I mean, like, yes, it's like, this is not a, it's like, it's very quickly tells you what should be the cool names and what could be the more popular name. It also goes back and checks, is this name available, and so. Amazing. If you want to go and then obviously, initially we were doing copyrights and trademarks in the first 2-3 years, but now we have created so many brands within Baachu. I don't think we have any copyrights or trademarks, but we might need to revisit. But Nameless is absolutely amazing. Go and have a look. Taylor Brands is another thing. Taylor Brands is like one-stop shop. You're starting a new company. This is like you're starting a new entity. What do you need to do? I just want you to go and explore Taylor Brands, because it also creates very, very similar to Luca, AI-driven, but it also does a lot more, which is like it goes in and it's a long list. Do you remember if you have a, if with this one, what it does is if you go and add your company's name, it just creates everything in a click of a button. Okay, you need to have a business card. You need to have your own, templates for you to write. You need to have a signature. You need to do this, that. You have a social media logos for LinkedIn, this. It just creates everything zoop, in one go. Taylor Brands, just have a look. Next one. This one is interesting. Okay, now you have spent all these things, and we recently looked at, do you have any brand guidelines? I mean, like, we have a brand guidelines created by something, but where is it stored, and does the people know? We don't know. In this case, Taskete is, or Taskhead, depending on how you call it, is a tool which is very interesting because, yes, as you can see it's Discord. Discord is like the Midjourney, DALL-E type of thingy. They came out with it. So simply, you can create your own brand guidelines in click of a button here. Right? So again, a free tool, but anything more, obviously, with charges. So you can still create logos, images, messaging, etc. But there's a lot more to this tool. I just wanted to explore this as well. And how can you create brand guidelines from this? So in good old days, this will be like a 5-day consultancy fee. So somebody sits and creates it for you. But now maybe 2 hours, you get this done. This was very interesting. Again, what that meant is, you can simply create different versions of your email signatures once you found your brand. How you can do it, you can do it. It's like This was interesting. While I was checking, I know it might not be relevant to you, but this was a learning for me, which is like, okay, fine. Now I have created the branding, but now you're sending emails to others checking it. This one automatically goes and checks and advises you. It's also integrated with ChatGPT, which is like, oh, your subject line rating. And it also goes back and also looks into how your other tools can be used, which is like, your previous newsletters, what's been happening and bits and pieces. So subject line. So I then came back and told me, hey, these are some of the stuff that you can use it again. Going forward, I might need to use it because I let go of my newsletter person, because it's the same thing that was created. But today, if you're using AI to generate, we are experimenting a new tool. It's $1,000 a month. Oof. But once you set this up, it creates nearly 10 pages of newsletters, comprehensive, scrolls nearly millions of pages itself once you put the attributes, and creates the best content. But yeah, it's something that I'm experimenting. I don't think it will be going before October, November, but it's there, so that's it. Rebrandly, this again, we all use, I know, tiny URL and stuff. Rebrandly, I came across, now I've created a branding, now I've created everything, I've created all my materials, but now I'm sending a link in Twitter. But when you click at the link, you don't know. But what Rebrandly does is it, any websites that you have, it actually tracks from social media or websites or email newsletter or anything, that particular link, your branding link, and it tells you, and it makes your links, every link consistent, which meant if I add it on LinkedIn, it goes in LNKDN. If I add a Twitter, it comes in something tiny or etc. It's all diluted. In any case, people click and come. But these guys have taken it to the next level where every link that you do is branded according to your brand, regardless of whether it goes into anything like LinkedIn, Twitter. Yes, it's all done, but it automatically guys and tells it. I'm just taking it to the next level, I know this might not be really relevant, but I know you're curious, so I'm just landing it. So exercise. What does it mean need to cover? I just want you to first go and create the character diamond for your company, just to see what does your company actually do. But then I just want you to choose your current company and maybe your main competitor, and I just want to do it, okay? Who are you selling it for? Just the traditional branding thing. You just do a quick one. But the second one, as I mentioned, is be curious and also learn about the different other brand identity frameworks and do it. Right now, from your own understanding, or tech it. What I've not done here is there any brand evaluation tools? Maybe you might find it yourself. So just do few bits here. I've mentioned reputation analysis. It's the reason I know that is one of my very close friend runs from Spain, runs a very, very big, it's called Canva. So, not the Canva that we know, it's a different Canva. It's a Spanish Canva. So now he runs reputation analysis. So just get your own thing. Just understand, how does your logo stand? What does your brand personality stand? So do we have a tagline? If so, what does it do? Look into the colors, typography. I know you have been looking into this already, but have a look again and then see what it stands. And then brand guidelines, and get an understanding of your brand guidelines, evaluate it with Cascade and other things. Just go first. And now, if you want to create your own, just for fun, if you want to go and create a proposal logo for redesign, use the tools that we talked about and create those logos. Just be curious. Because you see, brand identity is important. And people can work with anybody, but for some reason, they are coming to work with you. Or you might be invited for the tender, or you registered interest yourself, or it's because somebody knows somebody and you have been involved. That's it. That why you have been invited needs to be documented first. Okay, it's a traditional tender, fine, tick. Because X, Y, Z, fine. I also need to ensure that I cover that angle in addition to what I normally do in my proposal. Now, I've done whatever I can in a proposal. I've captured all this traditional, everybody does it, which is like, what are the hot buttons? And from hot buttons, I've done the differentiators. I've done the, all these things, value propositions, proposal strategies. Every single dog on the street will do that. But in your case, that's what others do. What can you do? Use some of these branding things and then say, okay, now how am I going to position this in a slightly different way? That's it. Just do that. Understand how your current company is perceived, understand any company that your company perceived, where do you look for sources, how do they do, etc. because this is important, because brand identity is your proposal identity. I just want you to know, in some cases, you might write a great proposal, but there is one person within your buyer company who hates your brand, who doesn't like your brand because he thinks you're too big, you're too arrogant, and you don't say what you do. You just do. You just talk, but you never do. All these things comes into play. Just leave the due there, and then play with it, and we'll catch up again in the coming weeks. But I hope that was useful. Thank you again for joining. Long, but I hope you are slightly more inspired on using AI tools for arts as well, in addition to writing. That's it. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you Friday. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining.